my name's Alan Alvarez. I'm 17 years old, and I have an older brother and a younger sister, and we all, including my mom and my dad, came to America when I was around the age of 4 years old from Mexico City. And along with us came my grandmother and my aunt, my uncle, and my two cousins. And we've lived here for a majority of my life. My mom's a nurse, and since for that career, she's gotten really good health care. But that was only like 4 or 5 years ago when she became a nurse and got hired. So before that, me and my family members didn't really have anywhere to go. We just go to the emergency room, and that was only when somebody was in serious need of medical care, like an injury or like very bad illness. So growing up was rough for us because, you know, the neighborhood we came from was filled with crime, and it was a real shady neighborhood, and we didn't really have too much, you know, especially growing up with so many people in one household. But so whenever we go to the ER, we'd always go as a whole family. You know, family's important to us. We didn't want to leave nobody behind and take a chance on something happening while we were gone. So we all went, and we kind of knew that when we went, for the medical staff, it was pretty frustrating and, you know, difficult to deal with so many people being in one area. Like, so we knew we kind of like stuck out because so many people were there, like in the waiting room or the exam room. In America, you know, living here for pretty good amount of time, we've all learned to pick up on English pretty well. I mean, that's what I've spoken my whole life, so I have like really no accent. But there's been some experiences where, you know, running into barriers and stuff with the words of like English we didn't understand, like going to the ER. Some of the medical staff would use words we didn't understand, or they'd say something we didn't quite know what they meant, and they would get a little annoyed or irritated that they'd have to go into more depth or kind of explain to us more. So, but that was really the only problem we've ever ran into. So one time, when I think I was around maybe 12 or 13, my sister had broken her arm when she was at a party, at her birthday party. So we had to take her to the emergency room. And while I was in the waiting room, there was a Hispanic couple there, and one of the nurses had come out trying to talk to them, and I could tell that they didn't understand it, and they didn't know what was going on and what was being said. So I kind of took it onto myself to help translate what they were saying, so the couple could understand. And so that's probably one of the only times I ever translated. But it was pretty crazy because the old lady had she thought she was having a stroke. So I definitely, you know, I got up and I helped translate her, what was going on with her, to the nurse. And it was just crazy, and I just still am appreciate. I think that it was good for me to help diffuse the situation, because it was, without me there, I feel like it would have not happened as well as it did. So, you know, coming here when I was 4 years old, I didn't really get to experience, you know, the healthcare and certain things like that in Mexico, but my parents definitely have. And they've also, you know, heard them talk about healthcare in America, especially with like presidential elections coming up. It's like an issue with, you know, the policies and stuff. And I've heard them talk about like what they used to have when they lived in Mexico, and they just, you know, they're just so much more grateful that they actually have the opportunity to have a healthcare that's just a good quality. You know, you can get whatever you need, and there's just enough of it to go around. You know, because in Mexico it was definitely something that wasn't very good, and here, you know, they take care of whatever you need, and everybody gets taken care of well. With the healthcare, there's not many two things that are wrong with it, but there are a couple things they could do to just help people feel more comfortable and more welcome. Like it definitely helped if they had a couple, like 1 or 2 people in each department that were bilingual or like knew a little bit of the language, so that way, you know, communication wouldn't be such a struggle with people who don't understand English as well, or do not speak it as well. And also, you know, they just gotta keep in mind, you know, just patience, because whenever somebody can't really communicate with you, or they have problems understanding, and you get irritated, or you like just run low on your patients, it really puts like a spotlight on them and makes them, it embarrasses them and makes them feel, just like they're not welcome, and it's frustrating for them as well, not knowing what to say and not knowing what they're saying is just, it's a difficult situation for everyone.
Hi, my name is Jessie. I'm 22 years old and I'm Hispanic. I moved here from Mexico when I was 2 years old the first time, and moved back when I was 17 and lived there for a year and a half and then moved back here. I have frequently been a translator for some of my family members or friends who need help in either a hospital setting or anywhere else. Sometimes they don't allow that because they prefer to use their own translators, but I do still stay with them in case things get lost in translation, or just to make sure that they understand everything that they need. There's been a few times where I feel like I have been discriminated against, mostly because when you first enter into any place, they automatically assume because you're Hispanic, you can't speak English. They right off the bat talk to you in all Spanish and give you all the Spanish forms, and being raised from here, it's sometimes even easier for me to get everything in English. They also always assume that you're there for all the financial aid and help that you can get, when that's not always the case. When I go to a hospital, I don't really get worried or anxious, but for my family or friends who don't know as much English, I know they do because they give me a call to go with them to either translate or help them out. The biggest barrier is the language barrier, and the biggest conflicts we have had is when you go to the hospital to see a doctor, and they always have to make sure that all the insurance is taken care of, but obviously you can't be insured if you don't have documentation. So that's always the biggest barrier, and the biggest reason why people don't go is because it's too expensive, especially to the ER. They prefer to just live with the pain than have to pay those costs. Healthcare in Mexico compared to the healthcare here was really different. When I was working there, I worked for the government, so I had free healthcare. It's something called IMSS, and so everything that you get there is free. All of your appointments and giving birth and even the vitamins, and I used to even get iron shots for free. Everything was included. However, the service itself was really terrible. The ERs there are pretty much like stalls with curtains that they leave wide open so everybody can see your private areas, which happened to me once. And it was so bad that even though I did take advantage of what I paid for, which was free service but included as part of my job, I had to go to a private clinic because at the free hospital I was going to, they didn't provide ultrasounds until she was 7 months, so I was just wanted to make sure that she was okay, so I had to pay for my own private health care just to make up for the service that they didn't provide. The home remedies that we use instead of medicine would be like the aloe leaves that are plants. A lot of my family in Mexico actually grows them, and they pretty much use the inside, which is like a gel and it's kind of slimy, for like multiple reasons. I mean, anything that you're feeling, they're gonna say go pull off a plant, cut it in the middle. A lot of my family actually just eats it raw, or people like my husband who aren't used to it, they'll put it in a milkshake for them or put it in their meals for stomach aches, headaches, or if you have a scrape or a really bad cut, they'll just put the slimy stuff on top of you. Another thing that we do a lot that I actually use myself is chamomile tea. It works really good with little ones like her when she was really small and she had a cold or anything like that. She was really congested and she couldn't take much medicine because under 2 they really don't have a lot of medicine for little ones. Pretty much just a warm chamomile tea with just a little bit of honey because they can't really take very much, and some lemon would kind of help clear her up or kind of just make her feel better and more cool. And in Mexico they actually do a lot of the antibiotics over the counter, even though they're not supposed to. A lot of the pharmacies there are not very strict, and they're pretty much pharmacies that you can find at any corner. And you would just tell them, like, I have strep throat, or I think I have an infection, an ear infection. They can sell them by single tablets, or that you can just say, I want 10 days worth. And there are even places here, like Mexican places, that will still have them for you. So if you know that you need them for just a couple of days, or you ran out, or you think you're gonna feel better even though you shouldn't do that, you can go there and ask for some. Like, even places that sell bread here in Ainger, I know will do that, and other medicines that they sell over there that they try and make with herbal stuff, they'll sell here as well for you to take.